Creed 2 is the sequel to the surprisingly adept Creed, the continuation of the Rocky franchise focusing on Adonis, is that how you pronounce it? Adonis Johnson, the son of Apollo Creed, and his relationship with Rocky Balboa, obviously played by Sylvester Stallone. The plot in this one sounds like a 12-year-old wrote it. Ivan Drago, the superhuman Russian Terminator from the fourth film played by Dolph Lundgren, now disgraced and divorced for his defeat and living in poverty, trains his son Victor to become a boxer, who's a beast in his own right. Unlike his training, which consisted of sophisticated and advanced scientific training, he trains his son, interestingly, in the naturalistic way Rocky did in his training in Rocky IV. Anyway, the duo come to America and challenge newly crowned heavyweight champion Adonis to a fight. Adonis becomes livid, so many mixed emotions go through his head, and he becomes adamant to fight the son of the man who killed his father. He pleads with a reluctant Rocky to train him, who is forced to confront his own demons surrounding Apollo's death. It's kind of stupid really, isn't it? It's a pretty silly storyline. The son of Drago and the son of Creed face off with Rocky and Creed as the trainers. For the Creed series, which sells itself as far more serious and grounded than the Rocky series, it's kind of lame and too on the nose. Saying that though about the premise, the execution is such that it doesn't really feel silly when you watch the film. It does come off as believable, even if the film has to retcon a few elements of Rocky IV. Like, what's with this thing about Rocky feeling guilty for not stopping the fight? First of all, Apollo was adamant that the fight was not going to be stopped. And even then, the ref actually tried to stop the fight, but was tossed aside by Drago, who continued punching Apollo to a pulp. So that part of the plot, which is Rocky's main motivation for rejecting the chance to train Adonis for the fight, causing a rift in the two's relationship, doesn't work. It feels disingenuous, even if the acting from Stallone and Michael B. Jordan is great. I felt the first half of the film was pretty good, and the second half is really bad. The very best aspects of the movie involve Ivan Drago and the discovery as to what exactly happened to him after Rocky IV. His story, and by extension his son's, was massively interesting, and all the parts with the two in Russia, especially the scene after the fight that happens midway through the film, were really cool. Lundgren's a great actor, and he did a really good job humanizing Drago. I loved that his son and him weren't some, one-note supervillains. They had their own development, their own story, which are the strongest scenes of the film. The scene shared between Drago and Rocky at the restaurant, where Drago comes to visit him before making the challenge, is the best in the entire film. I loved the bitterness between the two, the restrained frustration and anger, but also the level of mutual respect and understanding. The two men share a common understanding because they both have so many shared experiences in a way. Both have lived hard, have faced poverty. So Adonis chooses a different trainer after Rocky rejects the opportunity, and he goes into the fight alone and with his head not in the right place, and predictably gets the shit kicked out of him. The sight of him spluttering and crying in the hospital, a disabled man full of rage and emotion, is a pitiful sight, and I thought to myself, in spite of itself, the Rocky franchise still manages to elicit an emotional reaction from me. But this is really where the film stops getting good. A rematch ensures because Victor did something illegal during the fight or something. He punched Adonis while he was down, if I remember correctly. And this time Rocky is on board to help Adonis. But the second half though feels like it was made by someone else. The music choices are so poor. I felt embarrassed when Adonis' wife sang as he entered the arena for the second fight. The montage of him training feels half-assed and lazy, like it was only included because the filmmakers know every Rocky movie needs one. The predictable final fight lacks drama or tension, and even the way it looks is so weird. I think they might have shot it in a small studio with a CGI crowd and background because it looks oddly glossy and fake. Creed wins, as you expect, and we get a sappy and lame ending where everyone lives happily ever after. It just feels so lacking in effort. It feels lackluster and really cringy. The Drago's story continues to be interesting in the second half of the film. Adonis comes across as pretty spoiled, and there is little development for him, whereas the Russian storyline is quite layered. I really loved Ivan's reaction to his son's loss, comforting him and telling him it's going to be okay. That was really nice to see, especially when you consider Russia's reaction to Ivan's loss all those years ago. Their story is brilliant. I wouldn't change anything about it in the film, but the main storyline is eye-rollingly sappy and really poor. It feels tired by this point. The predictable formula really needs a change if they're going to make another one, because this one doesn't pack the punch it needs to. When Creed came out, I feared that it would be a cheap cash grab, piggybacking off of the success of the Rocky franchise, but it turned out to be pretty good, fresh, sharp, and with an interesting story. This one is everything I feared the first one would be. The movie suffers from a similar problem to films like The Force Awakens. It has no soul. I give it a 6 out of 10.